One aftermath of the Christian mission in West Africa and, of course, the colonial music education is the emergence of a generation of African art music composers who featured elements of various African musical traditions within the Western compositional framework. Interestingly, from the 1960s to the 1980s in Nigeria, many of these art music composers, including Fela Sowande, Ayo Bankole, Olaolu Omideyi, Akin Euba, Christopher Oyesiku, and Kehinde Okusanya, found a professional home at the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, that's the NBC, which later became the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN. Most of them had studied music in the UK and returned to Lagos to lead NBC's music section at different times.
In NBC, the first head of music and music research was the late popular organist Fela Sowande, who I believe that was the best organist Nigeria ever had. He attended Royal College of Organists in England and came out with the title Fellow of the Royal College of Organists, the most difficult exam to acquire. So after him came Akin Euba, who attended Trinity College in London. After him, Olaolu Omideyi, who also was an organist, was the third one, followed by Christopher Oyesiku, who was a singer, baritone, was a very popular singer in Nigeria. He later left, was employed as an artist in residence at the University of Ibadan. So after Christopher Oyesiku, I took over as head of music and music research. After I led that position, the music section was scrapped. There was nothing called music section again. And that was the end also of FRCN choir. There was nothing called FRCN choir because they didn't believe that so much money should be spent on running a choir. And Muslims didn't have anything called choir. Therefore, this question of balance would not exist. That's their belief.
Akin Euba did a lot, traveling around the West African coast to research into indigenous African music. And Kehinde Okusanya did a lot too, experimenting with talking drums, dundu and shekere. Was very open. Was open to all types of music, whether popular music, jazz.
He was a good drummer. You know, he taught me all the various drums. You know what I mean? Iya ìlù, omele, this, that. He was well versed in the instruments of the Yoruba culture.
In this docu-series, the only surviving composer among those I mentioned earlier, that's Mr. Kehinde Okusanya, tells his story from his childhood and early education to his time at the Guildhall School of Music in the UK, his days at the NBC and later FRCN. He talks about his compositions, family life, workplace politics, and overall legacies. His account is enriched by contributions from family members, colleagues, and mentees, including myself.
I was born with my twin brother. We were born on 4th of January, 1942 in Ikene. Today, I claim Odubolu, which is my father's hometown. We found ourselves in Lagos because my father and mother moved to Lagos and we were moved around to Jankara area. The market is close to Aroloya, and the school and the church that was close to us there was St. John's Aroloya, and that was how we were enrolled in the school and also the church. I knew nothing about music then anyway. This was, we started there in 1947.
Migration is sometimes driven by the search for greener pastures and the promise of upward social mobility. Lagos, a commercial hub in West Africa, has historically attracted migrants from across the region and beyond. For Kehinde Okusanya's parents, their move to Lagos may have seemed like a purely economic decision at the time, but it would prove to be far more significant as it laid the foundation for a remarkable artistic legacy.
And from there, I got interested in music. The organist then was late Mr. Hector Labinjo, who was organist there for about 35 years or so. When it was time for secondary school, I got admitted to CMS Grammar School in Lagos. My twin brother, Methodist Brother High School in Lagos. That was how we got separated, because we were both at Arodoya Primary School. But at that time, these three schools had what was referred to as common entrance. CMS Grammar School, Methodist Brother High School, Baptist Academy. Those three schools held their common entrance on the same day. So if you want to be admitted to any of those schools, you can only pick one. That's how my twin brother went on to Methodist Brother High School. And by some fate, I decided on CMS Grammar School. It was then at Odunlami Street. Now, grammar school. What got me excited about music was on the first day of school in 1955, being a Christian school, there was assembly, prayer assembly every morning, where everybody gathered in the hall. There's service, and on Wednesdays there's a full service before classes began. What got me excited about music was the school pianist was a student, Sabu, as he was then called, Odupe Atralade. He was later known as a popular musician. So I made up my mind that I was going to be the school pianist in that school. Luckily, he was then in Form 3. So by the time he left, 2 years later, I took over. Now, most of the music education that I had was in CMS Grammar School, because music, art were compulsory from Form 1 to 3. So it wasn't a question of I don't like it or I like it. And carpentry, they were rated at the same level with all the other subjects because of the zeal and the dream I had of being the school pianist. After that gentleman at Alade, all other subjects suffered actually because of my interest in music. Our music teacher was late Oshotuke Johnson, who was then the organist at St. Paul's Breadfruit in Lagos. He recognized my talent, and when we had exams in all these about 13 subjects that we did in school. Now when it came to music, what we were given 1 hour for music, in less than 5 minutes, I would have finished, and of course got 100%. After that first exam, all subsequent exams, that music teacher, he would take me home and give me all the papers of other students to mark. Now all these students, all these classmates knew it was me because of the comments that I made on, because I know every individual in my class. I would write comments. And they knew that it could only have been me and not that old man. I had no, only theory, actually, rudiments of music were taught. But I supplemented mine with piano exercises and all. Also at Aroloya, I was also accompanying choir practices, not on the organ, piano, assisting the organist. At the end of my grammar school period, secondary school period, I had made up my mind then that it was music and nothing else. At the end of the 5th year, we had a school start exam, and by the grace of God, I came out in grade 2. I think then there was grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. I came out in grade 2. And that time also we had a federal government scholarship in all fields, in all the fields of endeavor. Music, art, science, medicine. Interviews were conducted by the Ministry of Education throughout Nigeria. So I just took a chance. I applied. Only 2 of us were invited for interview. One, a friend of mine, late Mofoluka Denton. The result of school start was not out then. I was congratulated and was told that I passed the interview and that scholarship was given to me. But that immediately I got the result of the school start, I should take it to Ministry of Education, which I did. And I was given 1 week to prepare, to get passport and go to UK.
In this setting, tension existed between popular music and the orthodox church music rooted in the Western classical tradition. Many conservative middle-class Christian parents aspiring to upper-class respectability were ambivalent about popular music, or what they might refer to as street music. Therefore, they disapproved of their children participating in it. Western classical music, by contrast, was seen as serious and prestigious, conferring social status on those who pursued it. With this came a hierarchy of musical instruments, with the piano and organ held in highest regard, while instruments like the guitar ranked much lower. Owning a piano was a symbol of social prestige, and for those who could afford one, it was often a prized possession, even if they couldn't play the instruments themselves. So this view of the piano was what made Kehinde Okusanya's father purchase one.
Popular music was the in thing then, because popular music performers were the only people who could have their music recorded and commercialized. All the others, you could not, because it wasn't viable at all for the recording companies. But if it was popular music, high life, that's the thing that fetched money then and made those performers of that type of music easily appreciated. If you want to really enjoy yourself, then you go to, even as a young man, you go to a dance hall, go and dance, drink, which is associated with popular music. Now, church music was seen as something foreign because most of the churches were performing music by Handel, Bach, and the lot. So, church music was something in the background then.
The type of music my husband did is okay, but it cannot really, you can survive with it, but you cannot be rich with that kind of music, especially in Nigeria. I don't know of abroad. I don't know how they make it,
And people whose parents were Christians had more or better grip on their children, and they made them to behave strictly as regulated by the parents. If there's a dancing hall near Lagos Island where you lived, you have no business going there. Your parents won't even allow it. And your neighbors must not even see you go to a dancing hall, because for the fear of the punishment you get from your parents. If they said, they saw your son in the hotel dancing yesterday. But know that popular music is what it is, popular. If you played the instrument, very people had the opportunity of learning instruments like piano. More people would rather learn guitar because that will bring money to their pocket. Guitar, trumpet, and a lot. I was very lucky, or any of us who played instrument then, or learned one instrument or the other. We are very lucky that the only place is the church, and that's where you have the opportunity to learn the instrument. Even then, not many churches had piano. All they had was organ. It's only few ones like Aroloya who had also piano. But I was lucky because my father went abroad for the first time. I don't remember the year. And when he came back, he bought a piano, which arrived maybe 2 months or 3 months later. He did not buy it because of me. I think he bought it, he saw it as an instrument, part of the furniture of the house. And of course that helped me a lot because I spent most of the time playing to supplement also what I had learned at the grammar school. It was strictly theory, rudiments of music. So if you really are interested in music, the place to go is, even up to now, to join a church choir. It will sharpen your interest, it will enlarge your repertoire. Of course, for many years our life pervaded this music scene throughout Lagos, Ibadan. So serious music, you join a church choir. Most people who study music, you found were fully entrenched in one church or the other. Now, before then, I had met late Ayo Bankole, and he was then already in Guildhall School of Music. He was also there with Tolu Obajimi. She was Tolu Brown. Her mother taught her piano. I believe she also went on federal government scholarship, and so did Ayo Bankole and Akin Euba. She was the organist, master of music at the cathedral. She has been the only female organist in the Cathedral Church of Christ in Lagos. Those are the two who were there then. And when I got there in 1961, the piano teacher that I had was Professor Woodruff Robinson. It was the same piano teacher that I had for the 4 years there. Of course, you didn't learn only piano. You must have an instrument as your specialty. So I picked piano. Then, of course, we have lessons in rudiments. You have in history, form. Form was just analysis of structures. And then it was compulsory for everybody also to be a member of the school choir. And my second study then was violin. Now I picked violin not because I wanted to be a violinist, but because I wanted to have a knowledge of it, of the instrument, so that if I have to write for the instrument, you have to know what you are writing for. Then later, I changed from violin to, I loved trumpet then, but somehow, immediately I dropped the violin as second study. I moved on to organ because I knew that if you say you study music, you cannot escape being organist or choir master in the church in Nigeria. So if you say you study music and all you can do is sing, nobody reckons with you in Nigeria. But if you took singing as your special study, it was compulsory for you to make piano your second study so that you could accompany yourself on the piano. I also studied composition under Professor Alfred Nyman. At the end of 1964, I had got my associate diploma, sat for the exam, which consisted of, you have to have 3 periods. Period, that is Baroque period, Bach and the lot. Classical period, Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, and then Romantic period, Schubert, and so on. So when I passed that, there was a college called St. John and Mark in Chelsea, London. I went there. At that time, I had already graduated from Guildhall. There I met David Bedford, a British composer. He also late. But the reason why I mentioned him is that I got initiated into what is called experimental music of John Cage. John Cage was the initiator. You have Cornelius Cadu and some of their disciples.
Kehinde Okusanya's decision to take up the organ as a second instrument could be seen as a carefully calculated move, anticipating his eventual return to Lagos. He loved the trumpet but chose the organ, and this choice was indeed strategic, directly anticipating the need on the Lagos classical music scene. And this choice again would shape the trajectory of his career, particularly as a church organist and liturgical music composer. By the time I met Mr. Okusanya in the 1990s, one would never have guessed that the organ wasn't his primary instrument. His organ playing was nothing short of inspiring, bringing smiles to the faces of choristers and making church services a joy to attend. On certain days, he would even treat the congregation to special organ voluntaries. One particularly memorable tradition at St. John's Aroloya, where he served as the music director for many years, was the annual New Year's Eve service. The service was preceded by hours and hours of organ voluntaries and extemporizations. Mr. Kehinde Okusanya will take the congregation on a musical journey, performing continuously on the organ until the service began. For those of us who grew up in that setting, hearing the name Kehinde Okusanya today brings back memories of such occasions, moments when his brilliance on the organ was fully on display.
The exciting thing about experimental music is that to many people, rubbish, but there's some sense. Let me explain by citing one composition in particular of John Cage. It's called Silence. It's written for the piano. Now, the reasoning behind it is that there's nothing called silence. As we are here now, I'm hearing a bird sound from somewhere. I don't know if you heard it. There's some talking going on outside there. Can you hear them? The man said that if you are placed in a room, just you, in a soundproof room, if you listen very carefully, you will hear your heart beat. So, the idea behind this silence is that you go to the piano, sit down, blank paper, blank 3 pages. You sit down at the piano, maybe the first 1 minute, with your stopwatch, you just sit down and all of you will listen to sounds around you, and that is the music. So after first minute, you push away the first paper, first page. Maybe the second page is another 1 minute, few seconds, and finally the last 1 minute, few seconds, and that's the end of the piece. You get up. Now I remember vividly the first time I performed that one. It was at Arolea, at one of the choir festivals. I just went to the piano, sat down, pressed the stopwatch. People were seated, waiting for the first sound from the piano. Nothing came. Of course, they started chatting between themselves. So that was the first movement. When I changed paper, they said to themselves, now it's ready to play. I did not do a thing. And also, the last 1 minute and 2 seconds.
I will never forget that. I haven't studied music then. We're talking about something 20 years ago. He said he has a composition. He will sit on the piano, and it was an experimental music. He will sit on the piano for about 2 or 3 minutes. He won't play anything. Of course, as an experimental music, he won't play anything. And after the whole thing, he will get up from the piano and people will clap for him. I began to think, I began to see, what kind of human being is this? So how on earth will you just, of course, you're fantastic, you're a guru, you're a master in your piano playing. So how on earth you won't touch the piano, you just be looking at the piano for 2-3 minutes, no sound, nothing, and you see that, you take that as a performance. So for me, I could not relate.
If you don't know the reason behind it, you think, nothing happened. But all you are expected to listen to is the sounds around you. Like we are getting right here now. We have no control over the sound from outside. So we just waited. Now, that was my first encounter with John Cage. Now, he was also the originator of prepared piano. He put usually grand piano, rubber in between the strings, bolts, nuts, so that there are different types of sound. He could afford to do it because he had money to buy piano, and because all the strings in the end would be damaged. Now I went with a group led by David Bedford then and Cornelius Kadu. I started racking my brain, wondering after this excitement, what am I going to do? I ended up with my first composition on experimental music. The title was Dining Hall Ensemble. Then I was in a student's hostel in London called British Council Hostel. I then thought to myself that we all went in there at that time. At dinner time, breakfast time, you sit down there, everybody is chatting with whoever is seated next to you, either your friend or there are all sorts of sounds going on while you are eating. Knife and fork, spoon against the plate, pouring water from jug to your glass cup, where you are cutting your piece of meat, and the grating sound from that. Now all these are going on at the same time, but people never ponder on this. All they're interested in is eat and live. So that gave me an idea. So I wrote my first piece called Dining Hall Ensemble. It was performed there at the hostel concert. The musical instruments were knife, fork, plate, spoon, jug, all you will normally find in a restaurant or even at home when you are eating. I, as a director, will tell you when to pour the water. If I sing that to you at number 1 to play, you may or you may not play. The idea there is that if you take the same piece and give it to another set of people, or even the same set of people at another occasion, a different venue, or even the same venue, 1 hour later, you are not going to get the same result. If you are giving Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor to play, well, the only thing that will be different is your interpretation and your skill on the organ. Everybody knows it. Ta-da-dam, ta-da-da-tam. If you played anything different from that, it's not Bach's Toccata you're playing. But if John Cage give you his piece, you can never get the same result, same sound. So the music is alive, always changing. And also the environment, that's another important aspect. Because sounds around, you have no control over them. So what you call being absorbed is really not absorbed if you know what to listen for, if you know the reasoning behind that composition.
He will get a piano, pam, 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 pam. He will tell you he has just composed something. And what would it be? I didn't understand what he was saying. This is the Nutcracker Suite by Kehinde Okusanya. I don't know whether you've ever heard this note. He will be playing some modern, what's the name of this composer? He will open the piano, playing some, and you will actually hear him. He will pick some keynotes, crank, 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 part of the musical. You'll be crunching peanuts inside the music. I said, what kind of a fellow is this? But that's his own initiative, his own invention.
From moving beyond simply completing his music theory exercises on manuscript paper to playing them on the piano as exercises and eventually embracing the avant-garde and experimental trends of the 20th century, Kehinde Okusanya truly lived his musical career to the fullest. He mastered his craft and explored its many possibilities, savoring all it had to offer. As this docu-series unfolds, we will take a look at the remarkable chapters of his life and career, celebrating the legacy of a man who dedicated himself wholeheartedly to his art and to inspiring those around him.